Today, I am talking about one of my favorite topics and something I am super passionate about because it's something that took me a very long time to see clearly and even longer to do something about respect. Not the dramatic kind, not someone yelling at you or putting you down in obvious ways, the quiet kind, the kind you explain away, the kind you accept because you're tired, or because he helps around the house, or because your kids or your parents like him, or because speaking up feels more trouble than it's worth. The quiet kind you push away because sometimes it's just easier for things to stay the way they are. I accepted quiet disrespect for years in different relationships and in different forms. And I want to share with you exactly what that looked like and what finally changed. There was a guy I dated for 2 years in my early 40s. I loved him, but he lied to me consistently, repeatedly about things that were important. He lied about how much money he made. I didn't find that out for quite a while. He lied about jobs. He said he had signed up for a seminar I thought we were attending together. I found out as it got closer that he had never signed up at all. He lied about taking his medication for seizures that he had to take. And then he drove the car with my son in it. So many lies. And driving my son was the final straw, by the way. I had let him move into my house, and we broke up 4 times over those 2 years, and I kept taking him back. This is the part that's hard to say out loud. I knew he was lying, and I didn't break up with him, not because I loved him, but because he was out of work for a while and living with me, and I felt bad for him. And he helped around the house a lot. He actually liked to clean, which was great. And I was a single mom doing everything alone, and that help meant something. And he and my son got along really well. They used to play basketball together, and he helped him with his homework if he needed it. He filled a gap that needed filling. So I made an unconscious trade. Very clear, not consciously at the time. But I made a trade. Help around the house and a warm body in exchange for looking the other way, normalized. I was completely out of integrity. I would never, not once, have let a girlfriend lie to me like that. Not even close. I would have ended that friendship without a second thought. But a man, I stayed with him for 2 years. That is what quiet disrespect looks like from the inside. And that is what we do when our self respect and our standards are completely out of alignment. There was another moment, though, and this one I want to tell you about because of how it ended. I had been talking to someone on a dating app. We spoke on the phone probably for about 3 hours total before we decided to meet in person. He had seen my pictures, including a full body photo, because I'm into no surprises. He had even told me that it's what's on the inside that counts the most, that it didn't matter what I weighed. When I got to the restaurant, he was already sitting at a table, which looking back was a little weird since I wasn't late. But the host showed me to the table and I sat down. And within 3 minutes, he told me I was fatter than he thought I would be. In those words, I got up and left. And I want to tell you that story because of the contrast that it shows. The woman who stayed with a liar for 2 years and the woman who walked out of that restaurant. Same woman, different season of life, different standard. My confidence had grown enough by then to know that I didn't have to sit across from someone who spoke to me that way, not even for one moment. That's what raising your standards looks like. Not a grand declaration, just getting up and leaving. Now, I want to be real with you about something because I think it's important, and I don't want this to sound like I did all this work and now I'm done. Last week, just last weekend, my husband Hugh and I were at a small family owned restaurant that we love for lunch. I had asked for the dressing on the side for our Caesar salad. I'm being really intentional right now about what I eat. I'm tracking my food, I'm riding my bike, so it really mattered to me. The salad came with dressing on it, and I didn't say anything. I was completely aware of what I was doing. I used to work in the restaurant business. I know how food waste works. I know it's a small family place. We've become friendly with the owners. I told myself all of that in a matter of 3 seconds flat. But here's what I also know. I went back to an old habit of not standing up for myself and what's important to me, even though I knew that it meant changing around what I was going to eat later in the day or not eat. So even with something small, even now, even with all the work I've done, it happens. The inner work we do is not linear. Old patterns don't disappear, they just get quieter. And the difference now is that I see when it happens. I'm much more aware. I can name it and I can decide to do things differently next time, which I will. That is not failure. That's the work in real life. The most important lesson I have ever learned about respect actually didn't come from a relationship with a man. It came from my daughter, being a mom. After my oldest daughter's father died, my first husband, she went through an incredibly hard time. She went from being a great student and a normal teenager to someone I barely recognized and almost didn't graduate from high school. And at home, she was taking out all of her anger on me and her brother and sister in ways that I knew were not okay. But I allowed it because her father had died, because I felt guilty putting her through 2 divorces, and because I was tired. I was working full time. I had kids in different schools, different activities. I was doing it all on my own. And I just didn't have the energy to fight with her. But I knew that if I didn't change, nothing was going to change. Because I also knew that I didn't have the power to make someone else change. And if I let it continue, we were never going to have a relationship. So I got help and I started parenting differently. I started holding a line I had never held before, which was way outside of my comfort zone because my go to is people pleasing and I don't like to make waves. But then one day she said, fuck you to me again. But this time I turned around and I said, if you ever talk that way to me again, there's the door. I think she was about 19 at the time, maybe 20. I'll never forget the look on her face. She was shocked because I had never done that before. In all of those years, I had never drawn that line. Well, it never happened again. That was the moment I understood in my bones, not just in my head, that we teach people how to treat us, not intentionally, not because we want to be treated badly, but by what we allow, by what we excuse, by what we absorb in silence because we're too tired or we feel too guilty or too afraid of making things worse. When I changed, she changed. And we actually became friends after that and built a great mother-daughter relationship. That lesson has never left me. So why do women, smart, capable, loving women, normalize disrespect? Why do we accept from men what we would never accept from a friend? Here are a few reasons that I've lived personally. Number one, we were conditioned to. Many of us grew up in homes where girls had a role. Keep the peace, be agreeable, don't make waves. I was the good girl. I followed the rules most of the time. Speaking up felt dangerous, so I learned not to. Second, we confuse tolerance with flexibility. We tell ourselves we're being easygoing, low maintenance, understanding, but there's a difference between choosing your battles wisely and making it comfortable for someone else at your own expense. Third, we're just exhausted, single moms especially. When you've been doing it everything on your own for years, sometimes accepting less feels like one less thing to deal with. I get it. I have so been there. And it's still a trade that costs you more than it saves. Plus, we don't always see it clearly when we're in the middle of it. Disrespect that comes in quietly, eye rolls, in dismissiveness, in someone not waiting for before they sit down, doesn't always feel like disrespect until you're out of it and looking back, which is why you can't beat yourself up about it. You can't go back and change your behavior. You can only choose to learn from it. The first time I experienced genuine respect from a man, I almost didn't know what to do with it. My husband, Hugh, listens to me, really listens, not waiting for his turn to talk, not half paying attention, not tolerating what I'm saying until he can redirect the conversation back to himself. He listens to understand. He takes in my opinions. He doesn't always change his mind or do what I suggest, and that's not the point. The point is that he genuinely hears me. I had never had that before, not like that. And it doesn't sound like a grand gesture. It isn't. It's quiet and it's consistent, and it showed up the same way on our third date as it does today, all these years later. That's what respect actually feels like. Not the fireworks, not someone telling you how much they value you, but someone showing you in the small moments every day that what you think and feel and say actually matters to them. Before I finish today, I want to address something I hear a lot: this fear of being seen as too much, too demanding, too sensitive, difficult. But here's what I know: a man who calls you difficult for having a standard is a man who benefits from you not having one. I'm going to say that one more time because it's that important. A man who calls you difficult for having a standard is a man who benefits from you not having one. Raising your standards doesn't mean being aggressive or making everything a confrontation. It means knowing what matters to you and being willing to say so calmly, clearly, and without apology. It means asking for the dressing on the side. And when it comes out wrong, just saying, actually, I did ask for the dressing on the side. Would you mind fixing it? Kindly, simply, without explaining why. It means saying, that's not going to work for me the first time someone crosses a line instead of the 15th. It means recognizing that the discomfort of speaking up is almost always smaller than the cost of staying silent. You are not difficult. You are a woman who knows what she deserves, and those are not the same thing. Here's how I think about self-respect now, and it's different from how I would have defined it 20 years ago. Self-respect is standing up for myself in a way that feels right to me, not out of anger, not out of ego, but out of knowing my own value. It's setting boundaries without feeling guilty. It's asking for support, and knowing and asking is a strength, not a weakness. Asking for support is a strength, not a weakness. It's being able to look in the mirror and feel okay about the decisions I'm making for myself. And it's the foundation of everything, because what I know for sure is that you will not find a man who respects you more than you respect yourself. You just won't. The standard you hold for yourself sets the ceiling for how everyone else in your life treats you. And I mean everyone, not just a partner. And that's not criticism. It's an invitation to look honestly at what you've been accepting, at what you've been allowing, at what you've been teaching people is okay. Not with your words, but with your silence. And then to decide slowly, imperfectly, one moment at a time, to teach them something different. And I've got to tell you, it's so empowering. We are in week 4 of talking about green flags to look for in a man, and we are talking about respect and boundaries, because without these, nothing else in the series matters. Emotional availability, communication, consistency, the things we've already talked about, all of it falls apart if the foundation of basic respect isn't there. So I'm going to leave you with this reminder. You will not find a man who respects you more than you respect yourself. So I hope you take me up on my invitation to raise your standards, to speak up, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you're tired, even when part of you would rather just let it go, because you are worth the discomfort of that conversation. I am not just your coach, I'm your proof. If you haven't already, grab my free guide, Your Gut Was Right. 25 red flags that are trying to save you time, heartache, and energy. The link is in the description. And if this video helped you, please subscribe. Every week on this channel, we talk about real love, real growth, and what it actually takes to create the relationship you deserve. Because your best relationship starts with you. See you next time.